if I could give you one Formula One driver on the grid today to race engineer, who would you choose? Oh, that was a quick... Why?
Because he's just... He's my type of driver, and he's just a competitor. Max is the epitome of somebody who brings his own motivation and drive every hour of every day, right? He is so motivated. He is a winning machine. He wants to win. He is so competitive, right? So there's never any doubt about that, right? Of course, every driver wants to win, but how much can they bring it of every hour of every day? How much can they be motivated to be the best? Not only to be the best, but to put a big gap between me and the next best, right? Because that's what he wants to do. Somehow he finds that motivation from somewhere, like the gap to the next best driver on the grid isn't big enough. I need it to be bigger, and I need to outperform myself, and I need to drag the team along. And that is a powerful drug when you have somebody on your side like that, who is so self-motivated. You have to have all the competency and, all the ability and all of that. That's kind of a given, right? You're a Formula One driver. But having that extra edge of, self-belief and being able to motivate yourself and being able to motivate those people around you is that to me is what a complete driver is.
Look how he ended 2025. I mean, just metronomic, winning everything, complete pressure.
Yeah.
And he shows no signs also of letting up on his desire to be successful, does he?
Yeah, that's it, right? He still wants it. Yeah. He still wants it 110%. He wants it more than anyone else. It's clear he wants it more than anybody else. As much as it'll probably pain the other 19 to hear this, that's why he's so successful, because he gets up every morning and he brings it, right? And he is motivated, and you give him, he's the classic driver that you give him an inch and he'll take a lot more from you, right? And what does that do to all his other competitors? That sets them even further back, right? Because he just keeps going and going and going. I'm sure most of them are looking at him thinking, come on, Max, just have a day off, right? Just one day. Please just have a weekend off so we can all do this. But he doesn't, because it's not enough to beat people, right? It's almost to the point where he wants to humiliate people. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I don't mean that in a nasty way. But that's what goes through his mind. He is the ultimate competitor. And when I, the question was, which driver would I want as a race engineer? It's him, because that's what I want, because that's how I feel at work.
We don't know this dynamic, right, between driver and race engineer, because we don't get to see it. Therefore, what we do see, we think we almost make the wrong interpretation. I think of Max Verstappen and Gianpiero Lambiase. The number of times I've seen people say, oh, they obviously hate each other. Oh, they obviously don't get on, because they're so frank on the radio, particularly Max back to the team. What do you think when you see those type of radio calls from Max?
I think that Max and GP, who are both people that I dearly like, I think they have a great relationship. I think that is the one relationship that I see. It's kind of like an old-fashioned relationship. But don't forget, they've been at it for quite a while now. Is it nearly 10 years?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah.
So it's quite an old-fashioned race engineer and driver relationship. And I think if the perception is that they don't get on, I think the way that they can be that frank and honest with each other tells you exactly the opposite. They get on really, really well. And I think that Max knows that, GP has been a big part of his success.
Yeah.
Of course, he's never going to get the accolades that Max does. And I think, they wouldn't have stuck together for 9 years. What's you're going to be in a ball ache of a relationship, like a professional relationship, for 9 years and carry on? Of course you're not. They get on like a house on fire. And I think you've got to be able to speak frankly to each other. I think if you don't have honesty, especially in the very, very high pressure situations like that, whether it's sport or business or whatever it is, if you don't have that absolute honesty between each other, right, and you're kind of fannying round, like trying to say something but not really saying it, it's just not going to work. It really won't work. And I see this now, like when I listen to, when I watch Formula One races, and I listen to some of the engineers and their drivers talking together, the engineer can be, it's almost like it's too subservient. It's like, get on the front foot, tell them what you want. And I don't hear the whole conversation. So I'm kind of like, listening to this as a fan from the outside. It's like, tell them what you need. Like, they're in a very, very high pressure situation. Like, okay, this is like a superstar. They're paid, tens of millions of dollars a year. They're an elite athlete. They're one of 20 in the world, but now you're at work and you need to deliver for them just as much as they need to deliver for you. And for an engineer to deliver for the driver, you have to be frank, you have to be honest, you have to be open. And I think if you don't have that, even out of the car, Felipe and I would be like very, very frank with him. When he fucked up, I'd tell him he fucked up. Like, it's not good enough, right? What are we doing? And he would do the same with me. Yeah. And sometimes on the radio, like I said, like, thank God, like, not all radio was played like back then. But he would, quite often, like, tell me to shut up, and I would say, "No, you shut up." And we get into this argument, like, it's like tete-a-tete.
So when you watch a race and you hear, and Max is the one that everyone talks about when it comes to modern drivers and being blunt on the radio. When you hear him swearing, telling the team it wasn't good enough, questioning the team, you actually look at that and think that's the sign of a healthy relationship between driver and engineer and driver and team.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, look, like, it's in the heat of the moment. He's driving the car at 200 miles an hour.
There was a point a little while ago where I looked at all the supplements in my kitchen cupboard, and my wife laughs about this even now, and she's like, what has happened here? And honestly, I didn't realise that all of the supplements that I was taking had got so complicated. But I think it's because I was trying to be a dad, trying to be a partner to Harriet, trying to run a couple of businesses, trying to find time to host this podcast. And I suppose really what I needed was less things in my life and just a few things that actually work. And I think there's a myth that I'd like to debunk at this point, right? It's that high performance doesn't mean trying to chase everything. It doesn't mean finding every hack. It doesn't mean squeezing more into every single day. Sometimes the best performers, and they've told us this when they've been in this studio, they just prioritize simplicity. They only master the fundamentals. And to be honest, I think I've learned this the hard way through trial and error. And I think I now realize that nothing is more fundamental than fueling your body with the right nutrition. And I believe this helps. Vitals by Heights is nutrition without the noise. Just 2 capsules, 6 seconds, 0 effort. And in here, all the essential nutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, the healthy fats that are designed to power energy, focus, recovery, and sleep. So we're talking about no mixing, no nonsense, just everything you need in the right doses. And I think if something takes longer than about 10 seconds, I'm out. Luckily, this takes about 6, so you're fine. So why don't you strip your health routine back and just focus on what matters? Head to heights.com/Jake or enter code HP20 at checkout for 20% off your first month. I promise you, I believe this stuff really works.
Giampiero sat on the pit wall, usually air-conditioned nowadays. So, of course, Max is a winning machine, right? So, of course, he's going to kind of sometimes overstep the mark. But I know that, I would suspect, because this happened with me at times, I would suspect that he, later on that day when he's out of the car and acting more like a normal human being, there would also be, look, sorry about that, like perhaps overstepped the mark.
Isn't that
there.
Healthy as well, though?
Yeah,
like,
and that's the end of it. That's the end of it.
Yeah.
That's the end of it. You know what I mean? You're not going to sit there and bear a grudge. Like, I never did that. When Felipe sometimes, overstepped the mark. And I did it with him, right? We just say, yeah, sorry about that. I was a bit of an arse, but like, whatever, let's just get on with it. And I think that is the sign that you can have an open and honest and really healthy relationship. And you should have that whether or not, it's a race engineer and a Formula One driver, or a head coach and a centre forward, or whether or not it's a CEO and their CFO, right? You need to have that with the team around you. Yeah. Otherwise, what are you doing if you're not honest with each other? If there's always like a little bit of honesty kept back because you don't want to hurt each other's feelings or anything. I'm a great one for frank talking, and I think you have to be frank and open and honest in those situations.